Oh, hi. Welcome to Robert's Movie Review. I'm Robert Williams from the BGC. This is where I review some of the best and some of the worst movies on Netflix. Today, however, we're going to deviate slightly, just a little bit, from the norm and review a production on the Disney Plus platform. Now, if you don't have Disney Plus, trust me, it's well worth the $6 a month to view what we're talking about today, and that's the Broadway play Hamilton, as in Alexander Hamilton. Now, this is a representation of the life of Alexander Hamilton, and it's not just another play. What you're getting is a highly sophisticated musical. Now, this production is truly a masterpiece. It's not a masterpiece because it's just a great play, which it is. It's a masterpiece because there's a lot of symbolism, a lot of hidden gems, and a lot of Easter eggs all throughout this production that I'll be discussing later. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the production. Hamilton is the brainchild of Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is an actor, a writer, a singer, a lyricist, a rapper, a dancer, maybe even a fiddler, a bricklayer, a mechanic. This guy can do it all.
He's throwing up some words, I'm gonna say some freestyling that you never heard. Constitution, the POTUS, I'm freestyling, you know this. Obamacare, okay, I'm looking up because it was hopeless before you enacted that system. The Federalist Papers, Hamilton wrote the other 51 and greater.
Manuel wrote Hamilton back in 2015, and although I wouldn't exactly call it a hip-hop production, it draws heavily from hip-hop, soul, and pop music. What really sticks out the most is the very ethnically diverse cast of actors. In fact, all of the founding fathers are played by Black and Latino cast members. Now, there's 2 acts in this production, so let's tackle act number 1. We begin in 1776 in New York, which ironically is also the birthplace of hip-hop music. Hamilton meets for the first time Aaron Burr, John Lawrence, Hercules Mulligan, and Marquis de Lafayette, and Hamilton, impresses these men with his rhetorical skills in the first musical number called My Shot, which is based on 2 early hip-hop songs of the 90s, Mobb Deep's Shook Ones,
Say I'm only 19, but my mind is older.
Only 19, but my mind is older.
and the Notorious B.I.G.'s Going Back to Cali.
It's the NOTORIOUS. You just lay down slow.
The ALEXANDER, we are meant to be.
Now, in this act, all of the men discuss their goals for revolution. Then we're introduced to one of my personal favorite numbers in the entire production, King George's song You'll Be Back by Jonathan Groff. If Jonathan Groff looks familiar to you, it might be because he's the star of the Netflix TV series Mindhunter, produced by Charlize Theron. Groff gives an absolute hilarious but thunderous performance as King George.
You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea, which you heard in the sea when you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. You'll be back, soon you'll see. You'll remember you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. You'll remember that.
In the following scene, Hamilton becomes the right-hand man of George Washington in a song appropriately entitled Right-Hand Man.
George Washington. We are outgunned, outmanned, outnumbered, outplanned. We gotta make an all-out stand. And yo, I'm gonna need a right-hand man. Can I be real a second? For just a millisecond. Let down my guard and tell the people how I feel a second. Now I'm the model of a modern major general, the venerated Virginia.
As we move on, we find Hamilton meeting his future wife, Eliza Schuyler. Another one of my favorite numbers in the production is when Hamilton aids Lawrence in a duel against Charles Lee, and we are given the 10 dual commandments, which is taken from the notorious B.I.G.'s 10 crack commandments.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the 10 dual commandments. It's the 10 dual commandments.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's the 10 crack commandments. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hamilton is suspended by President Washington for the reckless duel. Eliza is pregnant. Lafayette persuades France to get involved in the revolution in guns and ships.
How do we emerge victorious from the quagmire? Leave the battlefield waving Betsy Ross's flag higher.
And Lafayette urges George Washington to call Hamilton back to help plan the final siege of Yorktown.
For this to succeed, there is someone else we need.
I know.
So he knows what to do in a trench, ingenuity, fluid in French, I mean. So you're gonna have to use him eventually. What's he gonna do on the bench, I mean? No one has more resilience or matches my practical, tactical brilliance. You want to fight for your land back?
I need my right-hand man back.
Now, at the siege of Yorktown, Hamilton meets up with Lafayette to take down the British, revealing that Mulligan, Hercules Mulligan, was recruited as a spy, helping them to figure out how to trap the British. Lafayette returns to France to inspire his people to have their own revolution, and Hamilton's son, Philip, is born. Now we come to Act 2. The second act kicks off with the return of Thomas Jefferson, who was in France being the U.S. ambassador. Jefferson is played by the very talented Daveed Diggs, who is an accomplished hip-hop artist and actor, and actually one of my favorite artists.
I'm broader than Barrington with a levee break. You need a vest.
Hamilton begins an affair with Maria Reynolds. Now, Maria Reynolds was Alexander Hamilton's mistress between 1791 and 1792. Her husband, James, ends up blackmailing Hamilton, and this affair is recognized as the first political sex scandal in America. See, Hamilton was known to be sort of easy on the eyes with the ladies. He was tall, handsome, noted for his sense of fashion, sort of like myself. Now, Hamilton, Jefferson, and James Madison, they create the Compromise of 1790 over a private dinner, exchanging Hamilton's financial plan for placing the country's permanent capital on the Potomac River. This is the point in the production where Aaron Burr becomes jealous of Hamilton's sway in the government, and he wants that same type of power and same type of influence. Burr switches political parties and defeats Philip Schuyler, making Hamilton now his political rival.
Two Virginians and an immigrant walk into a room diametrically opposed foes. They emerge with a compromise, having opened doors that were previously closed. The immigrant emerges with unprecedented financial power, a system he can shape however he wants. The Virginians emerge with the nation's capital. And here's the pièce de résistance. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened.
George Washington retires from presidency. A flabbergasted King George receives word that George Washington has stepped down and will be replaced by none other than John Adams. John Adams. Jonathan Groff gives another hilarious and incredible number in I Know Him.
John Adams? I know him. That can't be. That's that little guy who spoke to me all those years ago. What was it, 85? That poor man, they're going to eat him alive. Oceans rise, empires fall. Next to Washington, they all look small. All alone, watch them run. They will tear each other into pieces. Jesus Christ, this will be fun. Da 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 da. Da 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 ya da 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 ya da.
Adam becomes the second president. He fires Hamilton, who, in response, publishes an inflammatory critique of the new president. Of course, his wife isn't happy. In fact, She burns all of the letters Hamilton ever wrote her, erasing herself completely from his history. To make it worse, Hamilton's son, Philip, who is instructed by Hamilton himself, challenges George Aker to a duel, and Philip is critically injured and ends up dying. Can you imagine a father encouraging his son to settle an argument with another person by facing off in a duel?
Hey, Dad, what should I do? Johnny called me a dum-dum.
That's unacceptable, son. Here, take this pistol. Challenge him to a duel.
Hamilton endorses Thomas Jefferson in the presidential election of 1800, which results in further animosity between Hamilton and Burr.
They don't need to know me, they don't like you.
Excuse me?
Oh, Wall Street thinks you're great. You'll always be adored by the things you create, but upstate, people think you're crooked, and scholarship was up for grabs, so I took it.
Who challenges Hamilton to a duel. Why is everyone dueling? Burr and Hamilton traveled to New Jersey for the duel, ironically to the same spot where his son Philip was shot and killed. Both Burr and Hamilton fire after 10 paces, with Hamilton intentionally raising his gun to the air, which is symbolic of an earlier number called Not Throwing Away My Shot, which now this number is ironically entitled Throwing Away. Hamilton dies, along with his dream of becoming a martyr, with his wife Eliza and his sister-in-law Angelica at his side, Angelica being his secret true love. And he made that clear in act number 1 because apparently out of all of the sisters, she was the finest. Amazing performance. Amazing. But there's much more to this production than what meets the eye. Lin-Manuel Miranda is an absolute genius, and I'm going to tell you why. There's the thing called motif. A motif is a reoccurring theme that continues to pop up and drive a particular narrative or a point. In Hamilton, I've counted at least 16 different motifs running throughout this production, but the official number on record is that there's close to 800 million motifs in Hamilton. 800 million
motifs.
Now, motifs aren't anything new to Broadway, but Hamilton takes motifs to a whole new level because it uses not only lyrical motifs, but visual and subliminal. The most obvious motif deals with the shot, or shooting, or bullet, or not throwing away a shot. In fact, the bullet is represented by this actress who carries the bullet whenever it leaves a gun. She was also the first person to die in the production, and so she becomes the harbinger of death. If you read the credits, her role is the bullet.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, number 10, paces fire!
Now, a motif is used to manipulate the audience into having a certain feeling or a certain idea. Repetition is the key to any type of conditioning, and some of these motifs are very difficult to recognize, which is why Hamilton requires you to watch it over and over. I've seen The Matrix 119 times. Whoa. And each time, I find something new. Not to mention a camera technique ironically called bullet time. But let's go back to a couple of the musical numbers, starting with Satisfied.
Candlelight like a dream that you can't quite place. But Alexander, I'll never forget the first time I saw your face. I have never been the same. Intelligent.
This performance by Renee Elise Goldsberry is one of the most popular numbers because of her extremely fast delivery. In fact, the speed of syncopation of most of these numbers are twice as fast as our normal processing speed. The fastest delivery clocked in at an amazing 200 words per minute. Goldsberry delivers 120 words in just under 24 seconds, which is an average of 5 words per second.
Conversation lasted 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. Everything we said in total agreement. It's agreement. It's a bit of
In Guns and Ship, Daveed Diggs squeezes in 19 words in under 3 seconds, which means that if you slowed Hamilton down to the pace of other Broadway shows, the production would run anywhere between 4 to 6 hours. Now, why use hip-hop music as the main lyrical structure? Because in rap, words and lyrics play off each other through the use of consonants and vowels. No other genre of music does this. Hamilton could have easily used poetry to accomplish this goal, but rap is poetry because it uses energy and emotion to progress a narrative. I look at Hamilton as a love letter to hip-hop and also a love letter to Broadway. I recommend watching this production. It's one of the 5 best things I've ever seen on film. That's my movie review for this month. I hope you enjoy watching Hamilton. It's a great production, ingenious, it's brilliant. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay safe, stay cool. We miss you. We'll see you next time. And remember, don't throw away your shot.